Hello everyone, this is Nick Corbin and this is my series FactChat. First video we're doing today, pretty excited. The topic we're going to be covering today is LGBT rights, their place in society and their civil rights and the fight that they've been going on for that and the harsh realities that they have to face every day just for being who they are. This is the first video of the series, so I'm just going to kind of explain the format and the way we're going to go about things today. The dialogue today is broken up into three different sections. The first and second sections having definitive topics, and the third section being kind of an open forum, more of a discussion for topics that people have on their minds. I'm also going to be having two guests on the show today, people in my life that have appealed to me that they wish to express their views on the topic because they're heavily involved in the community and they wish to make their views known. Our first guest we're going to have on the show today is Brandon Niffinger. Welcome to the show, Brandon. How are you doing today?
I'm good. How's it going, Nick?
It's going pretty good. You excited about this thing we're doing today?
I'm excited.
What made you want to come on the show today to talk about these things?
Because I have a lot to say about what is going on in the community and my experiences that I've had in my life as a gay man. I'm 30 years old now, and things have changed a lot since I was a child.
Fair enough. Sounds like we're about to have a good discussion. So that was our first guest, Brandon. Our second guest today is going to be a close friend of mine and also the producer of the show, Alex Sturgill. Alex, everyone. Alex, how are you doing today?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. You excited about the show today?
Oh, I'm super excited. I can't wait to get this thing up and rolling.
All right, and what brings you on the show today? What do you want to talk about?
There's a couple of things that I want to talk about now that we have some more rights in the community that we've got recently, and I feel people have been reaching for more and kind of wanted to throw that into the topic of discussion.
All right, well, I'm looking forward to hearing what you have to say.
Right on.
All right, we're just going to jump straight into this. Our first topic that we're going to be dealing with today is stigma and harassment based around being homosexual. Just some quick facts I wanted to throw at you guys real fast. According to the American Association of Suicidology, in teens, general teens, the suicide rate is around 7.8%, with 2.4% of those having to be treated by a doctor or nurse due to their severity. In the LGBT community, it's 8.4% higher attempted rate, with a 5.9% higher rate of depression. And then when you go to adults, it jumps even further. The general population of suicide rate in adults is 4.6%. When you take that to the LGBT community, excluding transsexuals, it jumps up to 21%. When you go to transsexuals alone, it jumps up to 41%. So that's a pretty big oppression we're facing, and there's a big deal of things going on. So with that stated, I'm going to turn to Brandon. Brandon, would you be so kind as to tell us your story?
Yeah, my story having to do with when I was a child before I came out. I always knew I was different, and often homosexuality is confused with femininity for men, for young boys. So my first real instance where it was brought to my attention that I was different was when I was about 5 years old at a party with my mom's, where my mom was staying. And one of the friends of my stepfather at the time called me a faggot. And I didn't know what it meant. It didn't really mean anything to me, but I knew that it had the connotation of being a dirty word. And I always knew I was different, but when you're at that age, you don't know where your sexual proclivities lie. When I was on the playground, I preferred playing with the girls rather than the boys. I went to Catholic school, so I had a couple nuns who were good teachers, but wanted to try and correct that because they wanted me to be well adjusted in society. As I got older, I did get a greater awareness of who I am as a person.
All right. Thank you, Brandon. Now, Alex, what would you have to say your story was?
Well, my story kind of began when I was 13. I had a really close friend of mine, and didn't really know what was going on. Comments were made back and forth about trying different sexual things, I guess you could say, and didn't really understand what they were or why they seemed interesting, and that kind of began things as they were. I went through high school kind of secluding myself from other people. I didn't really understand where I fit in with those people, considering that they were mostly straight. There were not that many gay people in my school at the time. So it was kind of hard to find a specific group of people to fit in with. I did find a couple of friends to fit in with. There was a lot of the geeks, the anime people, the outsider, the outlying kind of people, and I fit myself in there for most of my high school. So that's kind of just where the track began.
All right. Well, now that we got some basic information on our two guests today, let's talk about coming out. It's the biggest step, I guess you would say, in admitting to yourself who you actually are, and one of the actually hardest steps, I would argue, for LGBT people today. So, Brandon, share with me your experience of coming out.
All right. So I started to come out when I was about 11, so it was like verging on middle school. And I just kind of announced myself to my class, more or less, of 20 kids in my grade because I went to Catholic school, very small school. I just kind of announced that I was bisexual. And at the time, it was actually kind of accepted. It was kind of in vogue. This was in the mid to late 90s. So it kind of made sense for them, I guess, probably, that I would have had an attraction to men and to women, but I was fooling myself. I was trying to put on a charade. I was trying to fool everybody else, too.
Mhm.
It wasn't until several years later that I was able to say, like, I'm a homosexual, which I am. It wasn't until I was 17 and after I had graduated from high school that I came out to my family. I had already been out to my good friends and to some of my classmates as a gay man, but I didn't come out until then. My grandfather had already died. My grandfather and grandmother raised me essentially, but my mother was living with us at the time. She had me young, so long story. But I came out to my grandmother and to my mom, and my grandmother had said, well, you just haven't found the right girl yet. I'm going to need to find you a girl. She was old school, Southern Italian. I mean, God love her. And my mother, when she found out, because my grandmother told her before I had the chance to, she freaked out about it and was in tears, thinking I'm either going to get killed or I'm going to catch AIDS and die and everything like that. And somehow in time I was able to talk her through it, and she was able to accept the fact that I am who I am, and now, years later, we're all good.
And how would you say that your family's reaction shaped your acceptance of yourself?
Well, it wasn't as good as it could have been, but it could have been a lot worse. I mean, there are a lot of families that I've heard of that are far less accepting than my family ended up being, but at the same time, there's this just intrinsic homophobia, especially among the older generations, that makes it very, very hard for gay people to find their place in society. So even my mother being younger, only being 17 years older than me, it took some time before she was able to accept me as a gay grown man.
Gotcha. Well, thank you for sharing, Brandon. All right, and now we move on to our next guest, Alex. Alex, how did you come out?
Believe it or not, like I didn't really have that big of a coming out story. I mean, a lot of people, come out and what's popular right now is like YouTube videos, things like that. People coming out and kind of making. I mean, I don't really want to say a big deal about it because I mean I feel like those might not be the right words. But it took me a lot longer than it did for Brandon. I didn't really understand completely exactly what was going on until about 22, around there. Again, like Brandon, I was for a long time I was bisexual. I liked both men, women, whatever. But it was a ruse the whole time. I mean, I was lying to myself as well as other people. But eventually it just got to the point where I just got so tired of caring all the time about what I was lying to myself about, so I just kind of stopped. So I didn't really have a big coming out. I just kind of accepted it, and I mean, the people that were important knew. I mean, I didn't lie. If people asked, I was like, yeah, I am. So what? It just kind of fell into place.
And how'd your family react, and how did that shape how you viewed yourself?
Well, that's kind of a harder mixed question for me. As of right now, I know for a fact that my mother and my grandmother knows. Funny is because my grandmother just the other week, I believe, went up to my grandma, or she went up to my mom, rather, and she was like, I think Alex might be gay, and that's kind of great. And I was like a little in shock about that, because my grandma's a lot older, and she's from a different generation where that kind of thing didn't really exist that much. So to see her be so open about it was definitely something that made me feel a lot better about it. So I mean, I know the two of them know. My father does not. He has mixed views on those things, and I've just never really had that conversation with him. But again, I didn't really come out to like my family at all. But I mean, I've never denied it. So I mean, they never really asked.
I would like to throw something in there if I may.
Absolutely. What do you got?
What was I going to throw in there? With my father, the interesting thing is he is so cool about it, and I am so fortunate that he's so cool about it. He actually asks me questions about my sex life because he likes to compare it to his heterosexual sex life. Okay.
Well,
and you are very fortunate that your grandmother was so cool about it. How old is she?
Late 80s. I think she's.
Yeah.
I think
If my grandmother,
she turned 88.
if my grandmother were alive, she would have turned 90. So, but she wasn't cool about it. But she dealt with it. So that's just how it is.
and just one last thing I want to ask kind of both of you guys. Both of you guys' stories said that when you came out initially as bisexual before you were comfortable enough to say you were a fully homosexual.
May I add,
man.
I've never had sex with a woman.
Okay.
Same.
Okay. Oh, okay. So as you came out as bisexual, do you think that was sort of a defense mechanism because you didn't think people would be able to handle the fact that you were completely homosexual?
I think it was a mixture of that and like a defense for myself.
Okay.
At the time, it was definitely something that wasn't exactly accepted. So if you were still interested in women, it seemed to kind of like keep some of the blow,
Kind of counteract it.
Yeah, to counteract some of the blowback.
Okay.
So it was also just, it kind of helped me keep from having to admit that to myself at the point.
Okay.
So.
I would agree. I mean, like, but I'm a little bit older, and I remember, like, in the mid to late '90s, like, with the Real World and everything.
Yeah.
And, you know, and MTV, the way MTV was, and MTV.
You mean when they actually played music?
I'm talking about after they stopped really always playing music. Like, MTV had its good points, it had its negative points, but it was run mainly by gay people.
Mm-hmm.
And so they were trying to increase visibility of the gay community.
Gotcha.
So they were almost trying to introduce gay culture, gay lifestyle to middle America. And so based on where I come from, bisexuality was in vogue. It really actually was. Like on the Real World, like they'd say instead of bisexual, bi-coastal. Like it was like the cool thing to be. Like among the men and among the women. It was the cool thing to be. So it's, I feel like for me, it was that, like, popularity of it, coupled with a transitional period in my own life. Like, it was transitional because everybody is assumed to be heterosexual at birth in our culture.
Yeah.
Okay. And so from the time it took me to be heterosexual to being actually who I am and openly homosexual, I had my bisexual brief fake phase.
Gotcha. Could I make an imposition as to say it was kind of a transitional phase for you?
Yeah, it was transitional.
Gotcha. Okay.
And it was also led on by media.
Yeah. Okay. So
a lot of those obscure videos on MTV kind of make sense now.
Like what?
I can't think of one specifically, but like, come on, all the colors and all the things flashing around.
Back in the early 90s.
Back in the early 90s.
I mean, we can watch some George Michael if you want to.
I mean,
I'm not talking about colors right now, but I'm just talking about like homoeroticism. I mean, it's like very veiled.
Oh yeah, there you go.
All right. Well, with that, we're going to move on to section 2. All right. It's time for the second part of our show here. It's going to be the views on equality and integration of gay into being accepted, pretty much in how society is today. Just a few facts to start off this segment. This is coming straight from the government website, the FBI's website. Hate crimes. The third biggest category of hate crimes is against LGBT individuals, comprising 14% of all of them nationally. And also, studies that were conducted between 1980 and 1991 showed that almost 44% of the respondents from the LGBT community faced discrimination based on employment, housing, or other opportunities. Now, to start this off, I'm just going to ask an open forum question here. What do you guys think are the major points that need to be improved upon in our society to promote integration and unity?
That's a hard question. I mean, we have been making strides as of late, but one of the things is I think it's a mixture of general acceptance, even amongst like our own like people. Because I mean, like I know that like the big thing is we don't want to put labels on things, and one of the things I think we're doing is that we continue to put more labels. Even like I mean, you're lesbian, you're gay, you're transgender, but then there are like sub qualities of each one, in each category. And I think that the next step forward is just realizing that all these labels are going to hurt us in the long run rather than help us.
Okay. What do you guys say?
Well, I would agree with that. I think that although we have made a lot of improvement and things have improved, like individuals, LGBTQ, young individuals, regardless of their gender identity, regardless of their sexual orientation, they need more role models.
Okay.
Like as celebrities, and just in their lives, actually, who they can interact with personally, so that they can experience, they can see the whole spectrum of gender identity and sexual orientation, and know that it's all okay. But we're moving forward though.
Okay. I mean, does that mean that Neil Patrick Harris isn't enough?
Neil Patrick Harris is a very good looking man.
I mean, as role models go, Patrick Harris.
I grew up watching Doogie Howser, and when he came out, I was very happy. But I mean, like in my instance, like for me, like I look butch, like quote unquote. Like people think like they see me and they think that like I would be like a straight man, and then as soon as I open my mouth, I'm gay. Okay, and it's like that's just one expression, that's one manifestation of it, and there are so many people these days that are genderqueer and they purposefully do not want, and I love them all, as long as they're not rude. They purposely do not want to be labeled, to be pigeonholed, to be put in any kind of box as far as their gender identity or their sexual expression. So it's different. I mean, it's very different. And I do feel like we have come a long way. So we've come a long way with sexual orientation, with Don't Ask, Don't Tell being repealed, and with the most recent decision. But we do have further to go as far as transgendered people and people who don't want to subscribe to gender binary.
But that's actually a really good point, though. Like, I mean, when it comes to people that are, like role models for this kind of like the LGBT community, I mean, you see a lot, Neil Patrick Harris. You have the daytime talk show host. What's her name?
Ellen DeGeneres.
Oh my God, Ellen. Ellen is my girl.
How could you forget Ellen DeGeneres' name?
I'm sorry, I love you, Ellen. Don't kill me. But I mean, like, you have a lot of openly gay role models. I mean, she's openly lesbian. Neil Patrick Harris is openly homo. But you don't really see a lot of role models that come into transgenders.
Except for now we have Caitlyn Jenner.
Oh, that is true. The Caitlyn Jenner, or like Orange is the New
The
Black,
actress from Orange is the New Black, which I don't watch that show, but I've heard about it.
She's a very, very positive role model for trans people. Very, very positive.
And I definitely think that that's something that we can improve on. Is
Laverne Cox is her name.
I watched Caitlyn Jenner's speech just last night, and I was like, I cried because I feel like it's something like you don't have to be part of the LGBT community. Anybody who feels maligned, feels marginalized, should be able to relate to and be emotional about that speech. It was very touching. It was very well spoken.
No, and just an outside opinion here. I'm not a member of the community, but I am a very, very, very much so a straight ally. And as I would say, I see all this hate for Caitlyn Jenner and for anyone mainstream who comes out as gay or lesbian, transgender, saying, "Oh, they do it for the money, they do it for the attention," and that really boggles my mind because I don't understand why somebody would subject themselves to such vitriol and hate merely for monetary endorsement. That doesn't resonate with me at all.
I mean, Caitlyn Jenner said straight up in her speech, which I watched yesterday, that that it was the hardest thing she ever done. And, you know, back in the 70s, you know, when she was a man, she was physically perceived as a man.
Yep.
She went through some crazy stuff with her athletics.
Yeah.
You know, but this was hard. And of course, it is all publicized in that instance. And, you know, but it really was touching because she said it wasn't just for her, it was for all those youths out there who don't have any support. They don't have a role model. They don't have the backup that they need to come out as who they are in this world.
Yeah. I would agree.
And she also mentioned, you know, like I mentioned earlier at the beginning of the video, that 41% suicide rate.
Yeah, that's
41%.
It's a bit high.
That's
just a bit
compared to 4.6 marginally.
Yeah,
that's a 1,000% exponential increase.
Yeah,
and that just it shows reflected on the opinions presented by these people.
I mean, it kind of shows you the mindset. I mean, it
does.
It shows you that, you know, society as a whole is, you know, taking all of these like the ideology of being who you are and just obscuring the lines that we call what we call normal.
If you don't conform to the gender binary or you don't conform to the heteronormativity, you're excluded. And
I mean, it gives you an interesting like psychological chance to look at how people like are affected by these things, because I mean, like, you know, the way that people are treated, it shows you how badly it can change your mindset when people just don't treat you the right way for all of the wrong reasons.
And I learned in psychology of gender class that you know, I can't cite specific instances, but that a lot of people have been hospitalized and a lot of people have died because of self-mutilation, where they were trying to perform transition surgery on themselves.
Wow.
And I mean, that happens in the developed world in the United States and Canada, not just in
because
countries.
I believe it's still classified as an elective surgery.
Yes.
I'll take your word.
Gender reassignment surgery, I believe, is an elective surgery still. Yeah.
That's by now it is. Yeah.
And that's a whole other issue, though.
Yeah. Right.
So they probably have to go through all kinds of,
and I believe,
psychological assessments and everything.
Like, hi, welcome. You did that. Let's get you a PET scan. Let's see how things are doing.
All right. Well, the next topic of conversation is I want to bring up is the recent SCOTUS ruling, 5-4, that legalized gay marriage nationwide.
Woot.
I love me some Ruth Bader Ginsburg. That's all I'm gonna say.
The notorious RBG, as she is called on the internet.
Yes.
I love her.
Let's talk about that for a minute. Has that impacted either of your guys' lives? I mean, I know as members of the community, you now have the ability to do what you should have had the ability to do. You know, as in,
would you like to speak first?
I mean, it don't matter. I mean, like,
I'll speak.
Go for it.
For me, it's like, I don't have a man worth marrying in my life right now, but it gives so much validation to my orientation, to who I am as a person. I felt like it wouldn't happen so soon. I'm really glad it happened when it did. It was pretty crazy looking at the map of the states where, you know, all the West Coast states, all the East Coast states, and many states even in the middle of the country already had laws that forwarded marriage equality. But Ohio, if I'm not mistaken, is the second most populous state that did not have marriage equality after Texas.
Correct.
And me being born and raised in Ohio and loving my state, although I don't always love the government, I love the land. It was really, really, really moving. I was really happy that they moved on it. I was really happy, obviously, with the outcome. And now I feel like I don't have to give any of my straight married friends grief for being married. Because in the past I wanted to be like, how could you dare get married when me, your good friend, does not have that same right? I'm not afforded that same legal recognition, that same opportunity. But now I don't have to be that person anymore. So it's a good thing, and I feel like we've in that sense joined other developed countries, you know, Western and Northern European countries, Canada and so forth, you know,
and even recently Mexico as well. Yeah.
How do you know more?
Personal victories.
Yeah, they've passed a series of bills that have essentially made it legal nationwide.
That's awesome. And I know a lot of people consider it just a symbolic victory.
Mm-hmm.
And I can respect that view.
Mm-hmm.
But for me, it's more than symbolic. For me, it is very real, you know, and for gay men and gay women, like, to be able to have that recognition is very important. I mean, I could only imagine, like, the grief that someone would go through to have, like, their spouse on a hospital bed, but the state you're living in doesn't recognize that you're even a spouse.
Yeah, the story of Bridegroom. It was
Not familiar with it.
was a couple that was not recognized. One of them was like fatally injured. I mean, like he was going to die, and because the state did not recognize them as a couple, and because the family, you know, being the ones that were able to visit him in the room itself, they denied him access to see his significant other before he died, and he was not able to say goodbye.
Wow. I wasn't even aware of that.
Yep. But that's all past now.
That's why this is so important.
Yes.
And this is one of the main reasons, everyone, that I'm doing this video series, is to show people the humanity of these issues. It's not just words on a paper, laws, legislature. It's much beyond that. It's these people in this room. It's the movement worldwide.
Gay rights are human rights.
Correct.
Yeah,
I don't want to dissimulate from that.
Yeah. I mean, I'm just expanding.
Yeah. But what I'm saying is this. We need to recognize that legislature protects people. You know, some legislature is meant to offend people, you know.
Yeah, as we all know.
Yeah, but as we're moving forward and we're gaining these strides, we need to respect these people that it's actually helping and recognize that they are part of our humanity. Does anybody else have anything to say?
No,
I was so happy with the SCOTUS decision. That's all I want to say. And, you know,
I mean, it was a victory.
You can't say, like, if we're going to talk politics, people will say everything that's happened during Obama's presidency.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I'm glad that we have who we have right now in the Supreme Court.
Fair enough.
I mean, when it comes to Obama, at least he was true about what he was going to try to do, and he did it.
Fair enough. And with that, we will move on to section 3. All right, and we're on to part 3, our open topics presentation. And one fact I just want to mention before this, about 3 or 4 days ago, the EEOC ruled in a 3-2 vote that discrimination based on sexual orientation in the workplace is prohibited based on Article 7 of the 1964 Civil Rights Act as a form of sex discrimination. Now, while this is an advancement, it does not, however, have any actual weight with it, unfortunately. The EEOC is not a court or a legislative body. It can merely be used to influence opinions, but its opinion carries no weight. So we can only hope with this decision that the circuit courts and the Supreme Courts will all follow suit. And with that, we're on to open topics. This is the part of the show where we're just going to kind of say anything on our minds that pertains to the topic. The first thing that I kind of have to say is, just as a general, I mean, Alex is one of my best friends. Brandon is also one of my best friends. I cohabitate with Alex. And as a lot of times I'll be talking to people and I'll tell them that I live with a gay man. And they'll say, well, that's strange. And I say, well, what exactly is strange about it? And they'll say, well, you're straight and you live with a gay man. Doesn't that freak you out? And I just want to get your guys' opinion on that. Does it weird you out to live with me? Would it weird you out to live with a straight man? Or is that just kind of a bigoted response?
I mean, if we were close friends, like, I would be totally cool with it.
Okay.
I mean, I think we might need to start over. I think we might need to start over.
No, you're good.
You're good.
It's all good. I mean, like, it's one of those things that, like, it doesn't really matter to me. Like, I mean, at this point, I just see that I'm living with another person. And, I mean, it kind of depends on how close you are to the person.
Yeah.
I mean,
okay.
If you know and understand, like, where, you know, for example, like, where like, boundaries would be, if you understand, like, you know, who you're living with. I mean, maybe it would be a little more complicated if it was with, you know, like, hey, I'm looking for a roommate, like, on Craigslist or something like that. If it was someone that you didn't know.
Okay.
Or someone who you didn't understand, like, how they work.
Okay.
I felt it would be a little more weird.
All I have to say is that, no, this shouldn't make any difference. And if anybody is making assumptions about your sexual orientation, about your proclivities, based on those of your roommates, that's just ignorant. That's stupid.
Yeah. And I have one more thing I want to bring up. Now I blanked.
If you can bring it up.
Yeah. Let me just think for a minute.
Oh, okay. Well,
Yeah.
while you're thinking,
Yeah.
I got something interesting I think I would bring up and would like to get your opinion on. One of the things that I feel that is really weird about our culture as it is the fact that, like I said earlier, is that we really enjoy to put labels on ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, you can't just be gay anymore. There's bear, there's twink, there's otter, there's all these different names.
I'm
and
an
titles.
otter, by the way.
Right on. I mean, I'm kind of just here. But I think that by adding these kinds of titles, we, like, as a community, are doing more harm than good for, like, ourselves. I mean, like, not just because, you know, different kinds or different titles of gays or whatever get different kinds of, like, Associated Press, but I mean, to me it just feels like it's a farce in that.
Well, I feel like, and of course I'm so much more familiar with the male homosexual community than the female homosexual community. I feel like it does serve a purpose when people are seeking somebody out for sex or seeking somebody out for a relationship, as far as two individuals or even more than two individuals coming to an understanding of what one another is like and what one another is seeking. But at the same time, it can be a disservice where, like, we're pigeonholing ourselves or pigeonholing one another. Like, it does get that way at times. It really does. But I'm an otter. But I like bears and cubs and otters, and I mean, I like all kinds of them. I mean, I don't have a type.
I mean, I think
I don't have a
territory.
type. I don't have a type. You know, like, I tend to like bearded men. I tend to like ginger men, which is very strange. But then I like my Mediterranean men too. Okay, I mean, so now I'm getting ethnicity, not
yeah.
Sorry.
No, you're good. But, like, okay, so, like, then building off that topic, like, one of the things I also don't necessarily get, like, one of the big things right now, even in all communities, like, around, is, like, the need for, like, perfection. And, you know, like, you know, a lot of the things right now are, like, you know, all of these women that are in all these tabloids and these magazines are, like, these super slim models, but, you know, they're all photoshopped. Like,
Body
we have
issues.
Yeah, we have a weird, like, body image thing. And I think that's another big problem within, like, the LGBT community, is that they are very much about body. I mean, like,
well,
I'm not necessarily, like,
it's tied into the whole fact that men are now, in these modern times, subjected to the same pressures physically that women are.
That's true.
Okay,
that's true.
20, 30 years ago, you know, like, men were not subject to all that.
Yeah.
You know, and so it's tied into that. But it probably is hyperbolized among the gay community. Like, and one stereotype of gay men, which is in a way flattering, but also in another way very kind of
distasteful,
derogatory, and distasteful, is that, like, the gay man is, like, built, he's, like, cut, like, he's got
bro status basically tattooed all over him. Like the standardized, like, you know,
I mean,
muscles,
and probably like a waxed chest and this and that, and, you know, but it doesn't apply to actual real people.
Right.
I mean, on a broad scale, it's not how it actually is.
Just to me, it feels like, I mean, I'm kind of more of a heavy set kind of guy. It just seems like not only were there certain times where I was ostracized for being gay, but then it was just even more so because I was being ostracized for being gay and overweight at the same time.
I just got ostracized last week by some gentleman for being too skinny. It's like, honey, you saw all my pictures, I mean, revealing pictures, okay, and, like, so all of a sudden, like, I'm not good enough.
Right. So, I mean, I guess it does sound like it goes both ways. So, I mean, I guess it's just something, like, I don't know, something I thought of that was just really interesting.
So what you're trying to say is if you're fighting for equality, why are you discriminating within your own ranks?
Yes.
Type of thing?
That's
the fragmentation within the LGBT community is something that needs to be worked on. And I know people who do work on it, and there are, you know, points that need to be made to where we can overcome that. Mm-hmm. You know, I mean, the otter bear cub distinction, personally, for me, it doesn't bother me that much. Right. I mean, it hasn't caused me any pain.
Right.
So,
I remember my topic.
Oh, right, got it. Hit me.
Okay. With the recent SCOTUS decision, as we addressed previously, there's been a lot of backlash classify it, but I'll say conservative
Yes.
backlash, religious backlash on this, saying it's against God, it's against the Bible, it's against our founding values. And I mean, if you look back on it, I mean, let's just to cite one example. Chapter 11 of the Treaty of Tripoli
Yes.
explicitly states
You were numbering
that this nation was not founded on a Christian ground.
Yeah, I say that all the time. I've referenced that
But
multiple times.
I'm not discriminating against any religion. I'm simply asking the fact. Have you personally dealt with any religious person that has cast you down into hell or whatever bottomed out pit they choose to do because of your orientation?
Oh, absolutely.
And has it intensified since this has been brought into the
Do you
mainstream?
really want me to talk about this?
I would like you to keep it controlled, yes, but respond. Okay, go ahead.
I actually was in a class one time with someone that was from another country. I don't remember exactly what religion, but he did specify that homosexuality was not only against their religion, but that I would have been stoned and murdered years ago based on my sexual orientation.
I mean, I believe firmly in separation of church and state. I have religion. I happen to be of Abrahamic faith. I'm a monotheist. There was a few years ago, I was at the beach, just minding my own business, just hanging out, reading a book, having a cold drink. Had these young girls, probably about 7 and 10 years old, throwing sticks and rocks over top of me. Just throwing them, like, not at me, not like striking me with them, but over me. And I started saying something to them after it went on for a few minutes, and then all of a sudden, from about 30 feet away, their mother, I assume it was their mother, approached me and said, "You don't speak to these girls. They're children. You if you have issue, you speak with me. I'm their supervisor." And I said, "Are you supervising them?" And then once I opened my mouth, once again, obviously I'm a faggot, so, which I can say that. Obviously I'm a homosexual man, so she started flipping out on me and she said, "How dare you come down to this public beach and expose and flaunt your sexuality?" It's not like I was laying there on a towel making out with a man. Not that there's anything wrong with that.
Yeah.
I should be allowed to do that if I find a sexy man. But
You just gotta find one first.
I know, right? But, like, she was freaking out on me, and she started trying to quote the Bible and everything to me, and it's like, it's she's talking about God made Adam and Eve, and you need to go home and stay inside, stay indoors. Yeah.
So because you were homosexual, you must sequester yourself from society.
Yeah.
Oh, boy.
I'm not allowed. I pay taxes. I'm not allowed to be on a public beach. Oh, no. It's completely acceptable for these children, these female children, to be throwing rocks and sticks in my direction.
Wait, I think I have the solution. I have it. If they don't want us in public places, then I should not have to pay my taxes.
There you go. If they want, to not have you access parks or beaches.
If I'm not good enough to go, I'm not good enough to go there.
I don't know where this woman came from, and it happened in my hometown, and I have never before then or never since had an incident of that level happen.
Well, that's good.
Yes, but it was very serious incident. Like, it was bad, and I spoke with a police officer a couple days later and said, like, should I have called you? Like, he came into my work, and I waited on him, and I told him what had happened, because he knows I'm gay. And he said, well, whenever I feel like a citizen feels threatened, that they think it might behoove them to call us, then, call us. Okay. And I'm like, but then he says, but it would have been your word against hers.
Gotcha. So
and I'm like,
he said, she
but,
said.
Yeah, it would have been hearsay. But at that point, she probably would have kept running her mouth in front of the police. And in my opinion, the police should have arrested her ass.
Fair enough.
So, I mean, like, we've got me and him. Anything you want to bring to the table?
Yeah. Any issues that you like to bring to the table?
I mean, I just said all I have to say, really.
Word to your
prompt,
mother.
You got to prompt me.
Prompt you?
That's pretty much all I have to say.
All right, okay, well, then I've got one more that I'd like to bring up then.
Okay.
With this following decision that gays are now allowed to marry, that it is now recognized across the United States, one of the things I saw a couple days later, not exactly how true it is, I did read the article, but it was that they wanted to now create a United States flag that included the rainbow. As some of you may or may not know, the rainbow flag does signify, and most of the LGBT community. I kind of felt that was taking on a little much. Like, I mean, we just had a very big victory and something that we well deserve. But then we go and want to start changing things like that. I just feel like they just we're reaching too much.
Can I comment on this first?
Yeah.
First thing that I want to say is we've had another big backlash with another flag in our country quite recently. The Confederate flag,
but that's a whole other story.
I will not get into that here. I will simply say that a flag should stand for something. All flags do stand for something. Symbolically, they have a meaning. Whether that meaning is good or bad is up to the interpretation of the citizen. But you also have ethical and morality values that play into that. Yeah. For me, the American flag represents our nation.
Okay.
Now, you're right, and I don't want to sound derogatory in this at all.
No,
okay, but let's go back to desegregation. Okay, which was here up until 50 years ago. Okay,
yeah, about that.
When we got into an integrated society, which once again still is not fair, but it's better than it was. We did not modify the American flag to represent that specific community because the American flag represents freedom. Mm-hmm. Yes. Freedom, and that's what it represents, is freedom. I don't believe that we should modify the flag to show a specific interest group because then you're disseminating against the others. Yeah. Because if we modify it to show rainbow unity, what have you, well, we have a separate flag for that. Yeah. And you are allowed to fly that flag on your home, down the street, on your clothes if you so desire, and that's okay. That's beautiful for you to show your pride. Same thing that somebody would do with an American flag. Yeah. Wear it on their shirt, wear it on their hat, show their pride. But I don't believe that we should integrate it into the symbol of our country. Yes, the symbol that stands for our country.
I would say, I can't really criticize the intentions of these people too much, but it does seem far-reaching to me. I mean, and from a political and historical standpoint, the only time the flag gets modified is when we add another state to the union, which we're probably never going to do again. Yeah. So, I mean, I think we've manifest destiny. I think we've expanded as much as we can. Yeah. Right. So I don't know, but let's not talk about the Confederate flag right now. But I mean, no, it does stand up for things. But if we're kind of getting off the LGBT topic now, but I'm just gonna say, on Memorial Day, they put little flags on my front yard. Like someone, I don't know who, AMVETS, I don't know who these people are. Okay, I'm not trying to disrespect them, but they put these little American flags on my front yard. Now, I was raised, I do not fly the American flag. Okay, the only flag that will ever fly on my property is the Swiss flag. Okay. So, and no rainbow flag either. Okay. So maybe I should make a rainbow Swiss flag that fly that. I don't know.
That's an international incident.
That's just the way I was raised. That's just the way I was raised. I mean,
fair enough.
Yeah. I mean, and you have, and that's what part of this country is about. You have the right to do that.
Exactly. Yeah.
Just because
But it's considered in bad taste, if not unlawful, to fly the flag of another nation above the flag of our nation.
Correct.
So I could never get away with this.
Well, no. But I mean, that's more of a respect thing. Yeah. As in, you're residing in this country.
Yeah, it's a respect thing for the country that you're
soil.
In. Exactly.
It's on American soil.
And I understand that to a point, but I also understand where you're coming from as well. Yeah. As in, that's your nationality, that's your heritage.
We don't have enough dye to turn the American flag rainbow.
Yeah.
We don't have enough dye of various colors. Like, let's just stick to the red, white, and blue.
I mean,
I concur. Anybody else have anything they want to say?
No, I think that's about it. I think we've hit a really good amount of topics, and I mean, a lot of ideology about what needs to happen has been put out there. So
I hope that you guys enjoyed this. Trying to bring something new, trying to bring an introspective into people's lives, so you guys can kind of see what's going on behind the scenes instead of just the faceless, nameless issues. All the facts that I cited during this thing, I cited a Williams Institute study from 2011 for the statistics of the population, and the other ones were drawn from various Washington Post articles, and the population info is also drawn partially from the CDC and the surveys that they send out every 4 years to do for the American census. Our next episode of Fact Chat is going to be centered around feminism, women's rights movement, what have you.
Big topic.
Yeah, quite a big topic. If any of you guys have any suggestions, ideas, want to be involved in some way in this video, I'd love to hear from you.
send us a message on our Facebook page or comment on this video on 2 cents and let me know what you have to say. I'd love to hear it. I'm always willing to get feedback from you guys and get you guys involved. If it's something you're passionate about, tell me about it. You know, if it's something you want to bring up, tell me about it. Make it happen. Make it happen.
We definitely encourage you to do as much as you can to get out to us, not only through the FactChat Facebook page, but through the YouTube channel. If you guys have any other ideas, feel free to send a message, post a comment on either place. We'll make sure that we read through them all.
And I want to thank Brandon for taking the time out of his day to speak with us today. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Nick.
And I want to
It's been
thank
my
Alex,
pleasure.
even though he's a major part of the show, for
Yeah.
taking the time to share his story. Thank
Pleasure,
you, sir.
not a problem,
And until next time on FactChat, stay factual.
and open-minded.